Right, so next up we have the Tek Di F1 S. Now this caused quite a stir when it first appeared because it was the second mixer on the market with the mini Ino fader installed in there. And you know what? It's great. It's a superb fader. I'm not going to review it again here. I've got a Control Z2. I'll have it in there. I've reviewed the mini Ino fader PNP. It feels great. The cut is super tight. If you want to get into scratching on a budget, because this thing is like $200 street price for this whole mixer, then that's a wicked fader, no question about it. The rest of the mixer it's heavy, you know, it feels really reassuring. It's got metal pots in there. Eventually I did manage to pry one of these EQ knobs off, and they are metal pots underneath. The standard, you know, up faders are pretty standard. Nice, smooth, gentle curve, so this will be suitable for other types of mixing as well, not just your kind of hardcore scratching. You've got master and booth outputs. Sadly, only on RCA phono connectors. There's no balanced outputs here. The EQs are minus 26 dB cut, so they're not a full kill, but not far off. And a plus 12 boost, so if you're doing lots of scratching, you want to, you know, take all your bass out and put your mid up, you've got lots of facility to do that. The mic input you've got there on the front, 6.35mm jack input for that. Your headphone jack is on the front. You've got small and large jacks for that. So yeah, really good from that point of view. You've got phono line switchable and CD inputs on the back, plus this time code input and output section here, which lets you basically hook in your Rain SL box or your Tractor audio box, leave your turntables all hooked up to the mixer, and just take your box in and out and just switch to that without any hassle, any extra sort of disconnecting stuff and all your earth leads and stuff like that. So that's a really good feature, especially for sort of your turntablist who's scratching away in their bedroom all the time and just needs to take their box out every now and again to do gigs with. Perfect from that point of view. It's ideal. One area where this mixer does fall down, unfortunately, and it seems like a real oversight. If there is one group of people in the world who need to be able to cue their master output, it's turntablists, you know? If you are scratching away for hours on end every day, for most people, you're gonna need an incredibly understanding significant other or parents to actually get away with doing that on speakers, or neighbours indeed as well. You really do need a master cue facility so you can hear your cuts. As you can see, to do that on this mixer, I've had to actually put it through to the Audio 6 and do some weird routing so I can hear the master output coming from there. Because yeah, there's no way you can do it. You can cue both channels together, but obviously that's pre-fader. There's no way to cue your actual scratching that you're doing, and that just seems like a real oversight for something that would have been quite easy to implement. But don't get me wrong, this is a good mixer for the money. $200, obviously that's $100 difference between this and like the Pioneer and the Allen and Heath, but in this kind of price range, $100 is a lot of dollars. You know, that's a big proportion. And so I think, you know, for the money you're going to spend, this thing is superb value. I would have liked that master cue. That's my only thing. But other than that, if you are a turntablist or an aspiring turntablist, you want to get into scratching on a budget, this is going to serve you very well indeed. Now, last but no means least in our mixer roundup today is the Barringer NOX404. Now, this one came up a lot in the comments on the preview article I wrote about this mixer roundup, and I can see why, having used it for a while. Now, you know, in terms of the value for money you're getting with this, it's astonishing. $180 street price, the cheapest mixer in our lineup, and it's got more on it than any of the others, probably combined. You know, it's amazing. You've got an Infinium crossfader, which is a really good optical crossfader. It used to be found in the Mackie D2 and stuff like that. It's a wicked crossfader. You can adjust the tension on it as well. If you pull the fader cap off, there's a screw there. You can adjust the tension, make it lighter, or you know, slightly more resistance on there, whatever you want to do. You've got separate curve controls on the front for left and right. You can reverse it, you know, go hamster style. You can reverse the up faders. You can reverse the channels as well and go left to right instead of, you know, all of that is superb. You've got contour controls like the Rain mixers, you know, the full proper contour controls for the up faders as well. So from a turntablist and scratching point of view, this thing is really good. So much on it, it's just astonishing what they've done. Now, one thing that has taken a bit of a hit in terms of getting all this stuff on the mixer is the overall sort of feel to the build quality. Now, you know, all of the pots are a little bit, they're plastic pots and they feel a little bit loose and a little bit you know, especially like, for example, the Q gain knob on this one is really kind of loose, more so than any of the others on the mixer. But, you know, it's $180. You're not, to get all these features, you're going to have to compromise somewhere. And overall, the sound quality is very good. I've got no issues with the sound at all. I mean, I'm currently running, it's got a USB connection, one stereo in, one stereo out, and I'm currently running Traktor's output into this channel here, and I'm recording back into Traktor. So what you're hearing on the soundtrack is the sound card in this NOX404, and it's decent. You know, you're not going to run a DVS through it because it is limited, but it's a decent little sound card, and in your bedroom setup, it's going to be fantastic. There are some weird, slightly odd design choices on here. For example, Barringer seems to be obsessed with getting you to pan stuff, and considering that most club systems I play on are in mono anyway, it seems a little bit pointless. For example, you've got two modes for the up faders, one of which is the mode 2 is basically puts it into like a panning mode instead of a fading mode. You can see it on the master level meters there, it's going left and right. You've got a weird sort of one on the crossfader as well, this mode 2, rather than being a regular fade, it kind of cuts in the middle instead. I can't imagine, maybe, you know, I just can't imagine a technique that would benefit from that, but you don't have to turn it on, it's fine. Go back to mode 1 and it's just a regular crossfader. You've got pan controls underneath the bass EQs, which is a bit of an issue because, you know, ultimately they're quite high profile little knobs on top of those faders, and it's quite feasible that you could turn your bass on and you've just panned yourself, turn your bass off and you've panned yourself all the way to the left or right, you know. So that's a little bit of a clunky sort of decision there, but, you know, not something you can't get to know and work around. You can switch the EQs on and off, which is nice. You can sort of create a kill effect because they're full kill EQ, so you could in theory turn, say, your bass right off and then cut it in and out with the EQ on and off, which is cool. Trim controls, you've got switchable line and phono inputs, so you've got full complement of inputs plus a separate aux input and a mic input as well with its own EQ, so that's all covered. You've got Q, you can fade between the two, which is nice blend between the two. You can also, as soon as you turn Q off, then you are cueing the master output, which is again great for practicing your scratches, practicing mixing in your bedroom and so on. That's a really good feature. You've also got the effects unit built in, which is, to be fair, a mixed bag. I mean, you've got some really good stuff in there. You can cue the effects as well. You can assign them to either channel or whatever you want. I mean, for example, the vocoder is quite a cool little effect. The delay effect, the 2x copy they call it, it's all right. The problem is that what you've got is there's no internal BPM engine, so you've either got to tap the BPM in, or you just hold that down, and then the frequency knob becomes the length of your you know, your delay. That becomes the time knob basically as well. So it's quite hard to get a really accurate BPM out of it, and for those beat synced effects. But stuff like the tape echo obviously doesn't rely on having a tight BPM, and that sounds really good. I love the tape echo actually. Can really mess with stuff. I like that a lot. The flanger and phaser do the job very nicely. Auto pan, more panning again. The distortion crunches it up for techno and stuff. The filter's nice as well. Got high pass and low pass, all in there. So again, this is all pretty nice stuff. The reverbs do sound a little bit kind of digital and not the most tasteful, but you know, it's all there and it works. You know, a lot of it's really good. So, you know, again, for the money, we're talking about some pretty impressive stuff. Now, unfortunately, none of the effects are post fader. So if you do an echo, for example, you know, you turn it off and it won't continue to play through. But what is post fader is the effects loop here in the center. Now, for example, we've got, let's go back to the beginning of that track. We've got assignable to deck 1 or deck, you know, to channel 1 or channel 2, and you've got a wet and dry control, so you can just have the fully wet signal coming back into coming in and out basically through the effects unit. So it does work in this case. So if I turn on my effects loop, it's now sending and it's fully wet, so I'm not getting any phasing coming back through the RMX here at all. And let's just get that BPM locked in. And then I can have post fader effects with my external effects unit. So and that's really nice. It's really, really good. There is one slight issue with it in that the FX loop on and off for each channel does kind of give a little bit of a kind of popping noise when you switch it on and off. Don't know if you can hear this on the recording. And I did think maybe that's down to having the levels maybe wrong on the RMX, but actually if I turn the RMX off altogether, you can kind of hear it. It's still there, but what you can do is turn it down and then turn, you know, so before you bring your track in, you can assign the effects loop to the right channel and then turn it up, and you're not going to have a problem with it. And then you can blend between the dry and the wet as you wish. So it's not something you can't work around, but it is something to bear in mind if you're recording a mix or so and you don't really want extra popping and so on. So, you know, I mean, what can I say about this mixer? It is 180 bucks and there's so much in it. If you're into scratching, it's got a wicked crossfader, it's got adjustable curves on the upfaders. If you're into mixing house and techno and stuff, the effects could come in really handy for you. Overall, yes, the build quality just doesn't feel up there with the, you know, the Pioneer or the Zone, but it's over $100 cheaper than those two. And if I was a beginner starting out and I wanted something a bit beyond a regular kind of $100 2-channel basic, super basic mixer, I think my head would seriously be turned by this NOX404, and I would not put anyone off going for it. I mean, yes, you know, Barringer have got great warranty options. You know, they're not shy of supporting their products as far as I know. So I would definitely say this is worth a punt, especially if you're a beginner. You're not really sure what kind of DJ you are yet. You want something that's going to go whichever direction you want to go. Then this mixer will do that for you. And yeah, for the money, it's incredibly impressive.